at the end of January 2023, news came out that the Earth's core had stopped, that it has suffered a break, and that this phenomenon has an influence on different aspects of our planet. What does Yazhi think? Before sharing her brief reaction to the supposed study, let's look first at the information from Aneeka and also from Yazhi about what's inside Earth. Originally in Spanish, 2021.
Question from a follower. On Earth, there is no iron core?
Many rocky planets have iron cores, and we see it congruent with Earth. It is not completely hollow, as they say, but is a Gruyere cheese with very large cavities that receive light and heat from geothermal sources and photoluminescence.
So in the center of the Earth, there is some kind of iron core? An incandescent iron sphere?
Yes, this can be calculated by the mass of the planet and by its generating capabilities of its magnetosphere. This does not take away from the fact that it is partially hollow, because it is, and it has larger inner seas than outer seas, or of similar size. But it's layers upon layers, where there could be magma above a habitable place, but at a great difference in depth.
And what if the Earth didn't have an iron core?
It wouldn't have the same mass. It would not correspond to the amount of gravity it is receiving. Remembering that for Taygeta, gravity generates the mass and not the other way around. In Taygeta physics, every object with mass is generated by the proportional amount of gravity it receives from the quantum field. According to terrestrial physics, mass generates gravity. This is not so. What I am saying is that the Earth as such is receiving a lot of attention from a consciousness that is the quantum field or ether, and that attention generates the corresponding mass as it would be measured from the point of view of someone on Earth.
Okay, thank you. Another question from a follower. Having hundreds of satellites, how does the Cabal not leak any images of the entrance to the hollow Earth through the poles?
1. The Cabal controls everything. 2. Polar orbiting satellites are very few.
Okay, and are the northern lights related to this cavity of the Earth?
Only secondarily. These are caused by the solar wind turning the atmosphere molecules in the stratosphere into plasma, with the action of the magnetosphere that in those polar points are related to the cavities.
Another conversation, 2021. Beneath the Earth's surface, there are ancient races called Vulcans, from which the name Vulcans comes from, like Spock from Star Trek. They refer, in fact, to those who live or are the gods of the intraterrestrial volcanoes. They still dwell there, in the Antarctic area. They are similar or Lyrian in origin, but little is known about that society. The last I heard of them is that they had serious problems of reptilian Kingu invasion, mainly like the Agarthans. The whole purpose of being intraterrestrial is to hide. So it turns out that even the Federation has very little detailed information about them. But it is known that down below there live innumerable species of animals, and some of the humanoid type, as well as countless variants of reptilians, generally smaller, 1 meter tall, with primitive societies. Although I do not have this confirmed, there are multiple reports of strange semi-humanomorphic cannibalistic beings in deep caverns, nightmare material. below the Earth is not hollow per se, but has innumerable cavities of all sizes, some of the dimensions of an entire large country, with its light coming from photoluminescence and volcanic sources. And the humanoid-like animals, what type are they? The type similar to Gollum from Lord of the Rings. All this makes you wonder how much is really known and hidden from people. A lot of Hollywood nightmares have a basis in reality or some reality. I myself do not recommend cave exploration as a sport. And were the Vulcans here before the first Lyrians? It is simply not known, but I am inclined to think that they were already on Earth when the Lyrians arrived. Also, an important comment: many non-Lyrian races are humanoid in appearance, without being of the same branch. The cavities or holes to the inner continents before the destruction of Tiamat, were they in the same place where they are today? One in Antarctica and the other in Canada? Mostly, but there is internal displacement with the continental plates, although many cavities are underneath the plates themselves. The Earth below is not like a hollow ball. It's more like a Gruyere cheese. For example, considering the size of the Earth, each cavity there is the size of Catalonia or Holland or even Argentina. There is much talk of a central sun that from there illuminates the intraterrestrial. With my data, those of Taygeta and those of the Federation, and with respect to countless other planets and how they are inside, I can tell you that as such there is no sun, but rather an incandescent magmatic nucleus that could be taken as a sun and that provides light and heat to the diverse layers or intraterrestrial vaults. The Earth, being a toroid, like virtually everything else, has hollows at the poles. A small one at the top, Alaska. A larger one below, South Pole. But it doesn't mean that you can enter one and leave through the other, but rather that matter is formed following this pattern of energy. And as it would happen with an apple, also toroid, the fastest way to get down to its hollows is through the poles. And how is that incandescent magmatic core you are talking about? In the geometrical center of the Earth, it is an incandescent iron core in liquid form with a high temperature. But it works as a complex pump where the incandescent magma rises through cavities as if by capillarity and produces zones or pockets of magma at various levels, flowing like rivers that circulate and recirculate among themselves. The engine that moves these magmatic rivers and lagoons is a complicated system of several dynamics that work together by accumulated pressure, gas expansion, magnetic flow, centrifugal and centripetal forces, and pressures that change according to the movements above the continental plates. Being that the plates themselves are floating on liquid magma and layers of water under so much pressure that it is no longer chemically water because it seeps through the cracks in the bottom of the oceans. Process of crude oil and planetary black goo manufacturing. So a planet is not just an inert rock like a small asteroid would be, but it is a complex system with internal irrigation of both magma, water and black goo, crude oil with a lot of movement. One would think that below it is more hostile, but in fact, because of the accumulated pressure itself, it is very stable below, and with less movement of solid plates as it happens above. And although the type of plant and animal life is different below, with few species common to each other, both environments, surface and inside, are conducive for life to flourish. You can imagine the Earth as a large living being with its bloodstream and arteries and lymphatic channels all in motion. Another conversation, January 2023.
Look, Yazhi, what a strange news headline. Earth's core has stopped and may be spinning in the opposite direction. Can that be? Does that make sense?
For starters, how in God's name would they know that? I use the above in a rhetorical, expressive sense. It can't, nor does it stop, because it was moving in a different direction than the Earth, which also doesn't make sense because it goes against the effects of inertia. I don't see any logic in it. In any case, I would see it as fluctuations of the Earth itself, as happens with any other planet. But my point is, why right now? Pandemics, asteroids, global warming, plague, economy, overpopulation, carbon, zombies. Someone wants to push the agenda that the world is ending. Keep believing all that and you will manifest it all.
And what does Eridania say, the chief scientist?
She doesn't see any sense to it. She dismissed it as fear propaganda. What the Toleka sensors indicate is that the Earth is as always, with its same natural processes and variations.